In the movie, Miss Congeniality, FBI agent Gracie Hart takes on an undercover mission at the Miss United States beauty pageant, where she poses as one of the contestants. Pageant coach Victor Melling is given the almost impossible task of transforming Gracie from a rough and tough FBI agent into a plausible beauty pageant contestant. Though he first balks at the idea that Gracie will ever be pageant material, he sets out to teach her how to walk gracefully, how to speak in front of a crowd, how to smile whenever she's on stage. He has a whole team to clean her teeth, fix her hair, and do her makeup. The outward transformation complete, Gracie blends right in with the other contestants. It takes longer for the inner transformation, as she begins to see the other ladies as friends instead of suspects in her FBI operation. Still, Gracie always remains focused on her job and wants to protect her new friends. Victor gets lost in the pageantry and believes Gracie has a real chance to win. And of course, he wants her to win. As she's trying to figure out the source of danger on the night of the pageant, he is focused on one thing only: the crown. He tells her, "Wear the crown, be the crown, you are the crown." We read about a crown in our psalm for today. God crowns us with steadfast love and mercy. And I wonder what that looks like. We might think about crowning a winner, whether in a beauty pageant or March Madness or the Kentucky Derby. The goal is to confer a title, to label a winner. We wear lots of crowns or labels. Some of them are of our choosing, and some are not. We have labels based on things we do or roles we have, like student, teacher, parent, child, employee, retiree, and more. And we wear labels that other people have given us that are sometimes painful. The woman in our gospel story wore some labels: crippled, bent over, weak. Maybe there were nicknames, insults that people used to label her as she walked by. She is bent over, quite unable to stand up straight. Her gaze downward, unable to look up without difficulty, she makes her way into the synagogue, seeing only the dusty ground and people's feet milling about. Her ailment keeps her physically bent, bowed down, and maybe the weight of her shame, of her pain and suffering, along with the judgment of those around her, keeps her emotionally bent, bowed, weighed down, and burdened. What is it that keeps us bent, bowed, stooped over, weighed down, burdened? In a more recent movie, Encanto, Luisa is the oldest of three sisters. She is known for her strength. She can lift buildings and boulders and carry large animals from one place to another. What people don't realize is that under the surface of her strong exterior, she struggles with the pressure of people's expectations, the pressure of trying to hold everything together, of always being the strong one for everyone else. She wonders what would happen if she could shake the crushing weight of expectations. Would that maybe free up some room for joy? I wonder about the expectations in our gospel text for today. The synagogue leader expected a normal Sabbath day: readings, teachings, prayers, offerings, nothing out of the ordinary. He expected everyone to follow the rules. His expectations are shattered in a wave of indignation as Jesus heals the crippled woman. At first glance, we wonder why he would be upset about someone being healed. It's not the healing exactly. It's just that there are rules. And he's expected to uphold these rules, to keep everything together. Unfortunately, he's forgotten the spirit of the rules, the spirit of the law, and narrowed his focus to the letter of the law. The Sabbath was meant for freedom, for resting in God's grace, for joy. If the synagogue leader could shake the crushing weight of expectations, would that free up some room for joy? St. Augustine speaks of those who criticize Jesus for healing the woman and asks, who were these except people bent over themselves? The synagogue leader goes on a tirade. There are 6 days on which work ought to be done. Come on those days and be cured, and not on the Sabbath day. Ought, should. Those are heavy words. I should do this or that. I should do more. Other people are quick to tell us what we should do, things we should put on the calendar, how we should do our jobs or raise our kids or spend our time or approach our classes. Whether we should on ourselves or receive it from others, it burdens us and weighs us down so that we are quite unable to stand up straight. And do we sometimes think that God is like the synagogue leader, with expectations that we can't meet, or demands of what we should or shouldn't do? Our psalm reminds us that God is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. But that can be hard for us to imagine. I know for me, I am often abounding in anger and slow to steadfast love. And sometimes we think of God this way, fearing that God is out to get us, watching for us to fail, ready with condemnation. Our view of God can sometimes weigh us down, leaving us bent and stooped and burdened. Jesus, as always, demonstrates God's steadfast love. He notices the woman who has been crippled for 18 years. He calls her over and tells her, "You are set free." The synagogue leader goes on his tirade, making sure the crowd understands, come on some other day to be cured and not on the Sabbath. It feels like if you're broken, if you have something in your life that needs healing, you are not welcome here on the Sabbath. Or maybe you can come as long as you hide all that messy stuff. Don't bring all of who you are. And the woman probably knew the drill. She wasn't trying to call attention to herself. She didn't even ask to be healed. She was just trying to honor the Sabbath. Jesus is the one who takes the initiative and calls to her, welcomes her, loves her. The synagogue leader uses ought to burden people. Jesus turns it around, asking, "Don't all of you untie your ox or your donkey on the Sabbath and give it water? Ought not this woman be set free on the Sabbath day?" Using a practical example, he references these beasts of burden. Even though they would be resting on the Sabbath too, not expected to plow or to carry heavy loads, they would still need to be fed and watered. Their needs couldn't take a day off. The Sabbath isn't for pretending that we don't have needs. Part of the work of the Sabbath is stopping long enough to face our own need, to recognize we are not self-sufficient, to tend to those needs. This summer, I had the opportunity to visit St. John's Abbey in Collegeville, Minnesota. I met several of the monks who call St. John's their home. They're fascinating people, many of them with advanced degrees, some serving as professors at St. John's University in subjects ranging from theology to physics. Others have jobs in places like the guest house or the woodworking shop or the library. They're well-traveled, having spent time in places all over the world. They all balance multiple responsibilities. And now we Protestants on the outside looking in might think, oh, these monks have it all together. They live a simple life, a life of prayer. It must be easy to be holy when you live in a monastery. What struck me was how attuned the monks were to their own sense of need. They would never say they have it all together or that they have figured out everything. One of them said to me, if I don't have time alone, time with God, I won't have anything to give to anyone else. He understood his need. God recognizes our need as well and welcomes us to bring all of who we are. Our psalm uses words like iniquity, diseases, the pit. Words we may not use often, though we are familiar with what they describe. We are well aware of our shortcomings, of our failures. Diseases are personal, landing us in quarantine or sending us to treatment. They're also public and broad. Diseases like hunger and poverty, racism and injustice. We even find ourselves at times in the pit of shame or anger or despair. We think, I have to figure out how to get out of here. God surely doesn't want my shame or despair or anger or bitterness. I need to let these things go. Meanwhile, God says, you don't have to be okay. You don't have to bear these burdens alone. God invites and welcomes all of who we are. In a book of parables called Tales of a Magic Monastery, there's a story about a conversation in a garden. I saw a monk working alone in the vegetable garden. I squatted down beside him and said, "Brother, what is your dream?" It didn't seem to bother him that I should ask so personal a question, not even having the courtesy to introduce myself. He just looked straight at me and answered, "I would like to become a monk." "But brother, you are a monk, aren't you?" "I've been here 25 years, but I still carry my gun." He drew a revolver from a holster under his robe. It looked so strange, a monk holding a gun. "And they won't let you become a monk until you give up your gun?" "No, it's not that. Most of them don't even know I have it. But I know." "Well, why don't you give it up?" "I guess because I've had it so long. I've been hurt a lot, and I've hurt others. I don't think I could be comfortable without this gun." "But you seem pretty uncomfortable with it." "Yes, pretty uncomfortable, but I have my dream." "Why don't you give me your gun?" I whispered. I was beginning to tremble. He did. He gave it to me. His tears ran down on the ground. He embraced me. That was 10 years ago. I still have that gun. Carry it with me all the time. I wouldn't feel comfortable without it. We don't have to carry our burdens alone. In God's great mercy, God invites, welcomes all of who we are, all that we carry. This woman appears. Jesus notices her, calls her over, and speaks to her. He crowns this woman with steadfast love and mercy. Jesus sees her, truly sees her. One writer imagines him bending down to look her in the eyes as he says, "Woman, you are set free from your ailment." He sees her with compassion as he recognizes the suffering she has endured for 18 long years. And he sees that she is more than her suffering. He emphasizes her belonging, a daughter of Abraham, a beloved child of God who is bent and burdened, weighed down, and he crowns her with steadfast love and mercy. We carry so much. We bear our own burdens and the collective burdens of the systems and societies we live in. We are often weighed down, quite unable to stand up straight. God truly sees us with our needs and burdens that do not have the final say. God truly sees us, beloved and belonging, crowned with steadfast love and mercy. To wear this crown is to accept God's love and mercy for us, and to look around and realize that everyone else has been crowned with love and mercy as well. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes people don't know that they are, in fact, crowned. And we need to remind each other to wear the crown, be the crown. You are the crown. You are loved. You are held and carried and surrounded by God's mercy. Amen.